V'yadati das brura. And I know something very, very clearly. Ki chayvus ha'evarim lo tishlama ki im beratzon halev v'chefetz hanefesh la'asotam v'ta'avat libeinu lifa'ol otam. Unbelievable, no? Yadati das beru. I know something very, very clearly. It's very clear to me. Ki chovas ha'evarim. This is how we finished off yesterday, because the duties of your limbs, just the physical acts that we do, lo tishlamna, are not perfect, are not complete, are not whole. Ki im beratzon halev, without ratzon halev. If you don't want it, you're missing it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, but I'm doing it anyway. It's not perfect. However, I want to qualify that I still think it's a very high level. It's a high level to do something you don't want to do if you know it's the right thing to do. I think that's very good. I think that shows maturity. Lots of people don't do that. Yesterday I bought a big bunch of flowers for my wife. And my son, Shimshon, 5 years old, I had all different stuff hanging off my bike. And I was like, Shimshon, you have to hold these flowers. And he said, I don't want to. And I said, I hear that. I'm sorry, Shimshon, but sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. And he looked at me and he said, but I don't want to do it. And I said, I hear that, Shimshon. You're such a sweet boy. I love you so much. I just want you to know that sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. And he completely accepted it. He wasn't like whining and complaining and resentful and kicking and screaming. He was on the back of the bike. He couldn't. He was just like, okay, I think he really got that idea as a 5-year-old. Sometimes you've got to do things you don't want to do. So it's a very, very high level to do something you don't want to do if you know it's the right thing to do. I don't want to get out of bed the time I got out of bed, having gone to sleep, the time I went to sleep. I don't want to do that, although I guess I do as well. So we have spoken about this quickly before. I'll just mention it quickly again. That you always do what you want to do. You always do what you want to do more. You have a clash of ratzons. You have two different desires. You want to get out of bed and you don't want to get out of bed. You want to eat that thing and you don't want to eat that thing. You want to smoke that, you don't want to smoke it. You want to say that, don't say that. Watch that, not watch that. You always have a clash of ratzons. And the rule is you always do the one you want to do more. Now then people say, no I don't. No I don't. Shimshon carried the flowers. He didn't want to carry the flowers. He had a choice, carry them or not. Well, he didn't actually have a choice. So how does this help my statement that you always do what you want to do more? Shimshon did something he didn't want to do. Because more than he didn't want to carry the flowers, he wanted to listen to me. Or he wanted to avoid the consequences. Not that I ever hurt my children. But there was a stronger driving force there somewhere. So when I say I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, after I haven't had a lot of sleep, there is another driving force that I do, because I know how I'm going to feel about myself if I don't. That's it. And most people, they're selling out to their instant, temporary physical desire over the longer term desire for self-respect and growth. But let's say for now, before we get too deep into that, you often do things you don't want to do. And it's a very good and high level to do that. It's good, isn't it? It's amazing. Now, no animal can do that. An animal doesn't ever do what it doesn't want to do. An animal can't do that. An animal has no self-control. If it's hungry and there's food, it can't not eat. It's a machine to eat. Now, if it knows it will get a hit for eating, then it won't eat, but that's because it wants to avoid the hit. That's called external control. It's being externally controlled. An animal can't have any actual self-control. You can have self-control. You can go against what you feel and what you want. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't matter what your mood, you can rise above that. I don't feel like going to the gym, you can go to the gym. I don't want to get out of bed, you can go out of bed. I don't want to eat that, well, I do want to eat that, you don't have to eat that. It's an amazing power. I think that's one of the main powers that makes you a human being. The ability to overcome your desires, your mood, your feelings, which is what you want out there. It's a very strong power. Yes, please.
I feel like most of the time during the day you wanna have things, you wanna design your day with things that you want to do, and then every now and then there's things that you don't want to do, but you have to do it anyways. Like what percentage do you think of the day is things you don't want to do that you have to do versus things that you want to do? Like, how do you balance it?
It depends on what level you are. And we'll get there. But if you're spending your whole life overcoming and doing things you don't want to do, then it's not going to be a happy, healthy life full of vitality.
Right.
Unless you get immense vitality and self-respect from doing things you don't want to do. That's a very high level. So for example, lots of my students at some point in their growth, they say, I don't want to daven mincha. I don't want to daven in a minyan. I don't want to use the book. I'm bored of the words. I just don't want to daven mincha. But I'm going to do it anyway. Because I know it's the right thing to do. It's like going to work, basically. You have to go to work, otherwise you won't get paid. So unfortunately, the answer to your question is, many people spend their whole life doing something they don't want to go do. 74% of people hate their job. LinkedIn survey. Or it could have even been 84%. 84% of people are getting up every day and going to work from 9 to 6 in a job they don't like. That's the vast majority of their life. And then they're coming home and watching Netflix or whatever they do. That's crazy. They're spending their whole lives doing what they don't want to do, and then like vegging out to some crazy pleasure just to give them some like pleasure. So I think for the majority of people, the majority of their life is doing something they don't particularly want to do, but they need to do it. There's two things in your life. There's I want to do it, and then I need to do it. You want to do things because they give you pleasure, and you need to do things because if you don't, you'll have pain. That's it. You're driven by pleasure and avoiding pain. However, imagine you lived your whole life just doing things you wanted to do. Now, the first level is, so I had this for a long time last year. I didn't really want to daven. I wasn't feeling it. But I davened anyway because I know that's the right thing to do. And I didn't get so much out of it, but I got immense self-respect out of it. Because I said, you know what, I turned up. I showed up. And because there's a word called geschmack. Geschmack. Geschmack means sweetness, really. I had a geschmack davening. It was such a sweet davening. It was good. So I was not having a geschmack davening, but I was having geschmack from doing it anyway, even though it wasn't geschmack. So I was like, this is geschmack. I feel so good about myself, because I'm doing something I don't want to do. However, if I spend the whole rest of my life not wanting to daven mincha and I'm just doing it because I want, that's not good. You should want to daven. So we've got to work on that. So that's why I'm saying there's one level is, I don't want to put on tefillin, but I'm going to do it because I have to. Which is better than nothing. Some people say, I don't want to put on tefillin, so I won't. So I think it's a higher level saying, I don't want to put on tefillin, but I'm going to. But obviously, that's a very, very, very low level compared to, I want to put on tefillin. I want that. I get that, I want that. Although I would not downplay that level, that I don't want to, but I'm doing it anyway. It shows maturity. But we've got to move it to the whole day. I'm doing what I want. I want to do. I said in yesterday's class, you need to want to do what you have to do. That's your highest level. I want to do what I have to do. I want to not speak Lashon Hara. I want that. I want everything that the Torah is telling me to do. Those are the things I want to do. And then you're living an amazing life. And then once in a while, you have to take some medicine. I don't want to, but I have to. That's it. So that I don't want to, but I have to, but I'm doing it anyway. That's a tiny little here and there. So what we're trying to do is, percentage-wise, move into the percentage where it's 99%. I'm just doing what I want to do. But it also means training your ratzon, training what you want. Because someone else might say, what do you mean? I'm spending all day doing what I want to do. I'm not getting out of bed, I'm smoking weed, I'm eating everything. So once again, you've got to want to do the right things. I always want to do the right things. By the way, our driving force in Judaism In most people's driving force is to get pleasure and avoid pain. Every decision you've ever made in your life has been a decision to get pleasure or avoid pain. Things you want to do, things you need to do. Judaism says no, there's only one driving force in your life. Do the right thing. That's it. I don't care about pleasure and pain. I'm just going to do the right thing, whether it gives me pleasure or pain. I'm doing the right thing. Do the right thing in God's eyes. Do the right thing. Now obviously it gives you great pleasure to do the right thing, but not always actually. But if you always do it, if you always do the right thing even when it's not giving you pleasure, then that's the ultimate that's the ultimate self-control. That's what Yosef Tzaddik. We're into now the parshas of Yosef Tzaddik. So Yosef Tzaddik is just, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing, everything's from Hashem, I'm just going to do the right thing. It's a very high level. So if you don't want to put on tefillin, but you are putting on tefillin, it's an external act. It's not very good, it's external, a body without a soul.
Where are we here?
In the
Hakdama,
the introduction.
very beginning.
Not the very, very beginning, but I don't know. There we are. It's about 15 paragraphs in. I don't know.
What is the Torah? What is it?
V'yadati dat brura. And I know, I worked out a very clear thing, very clear to me. V'yadati dat brura. Maybe you know what I'm going to do from now on. I'm going to come in and I'm going to show you where we are. But it just means I have to come in knowing where we're going to be. This doesn't happen that often. V'chefetz hanefesh la'asotam. I really want to do it. I really want to daven mincha. Someone came out to me. There was my daughter's bat mitzvah last night. Amazing. And they were like, how do you feel? Are you enjoying yourself? And I was like, I just want to daven Mariv. I literally can't enjoy. Once it comes time for Mariv, I can't do anything until I daven Mariv. My neshama is just like, it's like people with their coffee. Don't talk to me till I've had my coffee. I just can't. And we went and we davened Mariv, a beautiful Mariv on the overlooking the Kotel over there. And then I was like, okay, now we can enjoy ourselves. I did my chovah. I have a duty. I just want to do my duty. But by the way, this is another very important thing. Rav Soloveitchik says, one of my favorite lines, he says, most Jews, they don't want to pray, they want to have prayed. I just want to get married out of the way, so now I can enjoy myself. So that's not what it's like for me. I want to have married. But you Hashem. So you can also be like that. I want to tick off the box quickly so I can just get on with my life. Put on tefillin, ticking off the box. I really want to do v'taivas libeinu lefolatam. Now this is crazy. I'm shouting at you all the time to overcome your taiva. Taiva means physical craving usually. Pirkei Avot says, Kina taiva kavod, jealousy, physical craving and honor seeking is taking you out of the world. It's disconnecting you from God. So he uses the word here, tavat libeno, the craving of our heart to do these things. Now what is a taiva? A taiva is an almost incontrollable need. It's a craving. I need that. I've got a taiva for chocolate. And once you see chocolate, for many people you just can't fight that. You got to run up the stairs. You got to get away from that. So he's using that same word for mitzvahs and Hashem. The Mesilas Yesharim does as well. It's got to be like, I'm so drawn. I'm so drawn to that. That's what I'm being drawn towards. And we've said he's going to talk about it a lot. Maybe a bit later in the introduction, that you can't be drawn to both. It's basically one or the other. You can't be really drawn to chocolate and really drawn to tefillin. It just doesn't work. Now you feel, oh, then it does, because I do want both. But he's saying, what I think he's saying is, at least I'm going to be nice now. If you're drawn to to chocolate 50%, then you'll be drawn to tefillin only 50%. It goes like that. That's a more fair chart. But the truth is, he says a little bit deeper later, which is no. As soon as you want just physical things and you want your team to win and you want like that, you can't really, they just don't work together. It's like Esav and Yaakov. That's why they were fighting in the womb. Those two worlds can't live together. That's a very high level. So for now, before Adam freaks out, we're just going to go with the proportion. If you want that 20%, you'll only be able to want that 80%. Yes, please.
So if we see like, I know we have to judge favorably, but I'm sure if we see like, let's call them overweight Rebbeim, we can assume that they have taivas for unhealthy foods. No, because otherwise, or either the volume of the food if it's healthy, or the quality of the food which is unhealthy.
Are you saying that not every religious Jew is a full tzaddik? Yeah, okay, they're still human. But yes. But no.
But you're saying that the proportion, so like that means that they're taiva for...
I don't know, because that if he's a big rabbi, maybe he mamish loves Gemara as well, and so he needs to feed his guf just to pay it off so that he can learn Gemara. I don't know. We can definitely judge favorably. There was I can't remember the full story now, but here's a story. And I'm going to mess it up a lot, but you'll get the idea. There's a very, 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 very fat rabbi about 200 years ago. And eventually people came up to him and said, "What's wrong? Why are you so fat? Like ridiculous. You're huge." And he said, "I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the story."
He said, "There's a story of how he got fat."
Yeah. There were pogroms in the village, they're in Russia, they're Poland, wherever it is. And he said, my father, they basically came and wiped out the whole village, and they burnt my father. They burnt lots of the men. And he said, my father died very quickly. Al Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name. Because my father was very thin. So I decided that just in case that happens to me, I want to be very, very fat, so that I burn more slowly, so that I can elongate the Kiddush Hashem. That's not the exact story, but it's something like that. So, if we have this idea in Judaism, judge favorably, to such an extent where it's completely ridiculous. Ridiculous to think that, but you should. And there's stories in the Gemara like that. The Gemara brings a story of a man worked for a very rich man, and then at the end of the year he came up to the rich man and said, "Can I pay you?" And the rich man said, "I don't have any money." And he said, "Okay, so give me your sheep." He goes, "I don't have any sheep." He said, "Give me your this." He said, "I don't have anything." So the poor man went home. And then after Sukkot, the rich man comes with all the payment and the sheep and everything, extra presents. And the rich man said to the poor man, "What were you thinking when I said I don't have any money?" And he said, "Well, I think you had given your money away to the poor people already. And they didn't have any sheep, you'd offered it up to the temple and you couldn't use it. And you didn't have any land, you were lending it out." And the rich man said, "Yeah, that's exactly what happened." So the Gemara is basically teaching us that you have to judge someone favorably beyond any possible. So you see a very fat Jew who clearly is whatever maybe you're saying, you have to think, well, they need to feed themselves, or you can't judge people's metabolism, and you don't know, maybe you'd be fatter if you were him. Maybe he just eats a lot so that he says more brachas. I don't know. So whatever it is. The ones that smoke, I don't know how to... So, whatever. Once again, it wasn't their fault. They grew up in that environment. We just don't know. You can never judge anyone. The way we always judge someone is, you look at someone doing something, and you have to say to yourself, maybe if I had their upbringing, and their metabolism, and their abusive childhood, and their this, and their whatever, then I'd be much worse than them, and in fact, they're doing really well. He could have been twice as fat, but he's really controlling himself. And if they had my upbringing and my thing, then maybe they would have been twice as good as me. We just don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, you can't crave both. Maybe you can want both, but you know what, I'm going to say this. You can want both, and the wanting both is proportional. I want chocolate and I want tefillin. So that's 20/80. But when it comes to craving, taiva, drawn to, then you can't. It's either one of them. Maybe. I'm going to say that. There's a difference between ratzon, want, and taiva, which is like uncontrollable, insatiable need. I need this. So if you need chocolate, you can't need tefillin. Maybe. And by the way, we're on the proportional level. We're all growing. We're not meant to be tzaddikim. I don't walk out of this classroom being like, oh no, I still like eating. What's wrong with me? Don't do that. But try to think about food a little bit less. And try to think about tefillin a little bit more. And that's what he's going to say, because it's the duties of the heart. Your heart's what's really important. Let's just read it quickly. ואם יעלה במחשבתנו שאין ליבותינו חייבים לבחור בעבודת השם ולחבור בו, and if it should come up in your thoughts that we don't have to choose to do avodas Hashem and to want it, יסתלק מעל עברנו חיוב המצוות שאנו חייבים בהם. If you don't think that our ratzon, our desire, is part of our service, then there'd be no point to doing the other ones. What is it then? What are you just doing? You're tying a box on your arm. There's no point. You lose the whole purpose of the whole mitzvah. What's the purpose of mitzvahs? Connection to Hashem. So if you're doing them and you're not connecting to Hashem, you're not doing it. You're just putting black boxes on your arm and your head. That's a weird thing to do. So in fact, there's no such thing as a mitzvah's evarim, an action without the mitzvah. It's just not called a mitzvah, because mitzvah means connection. So if you're not connected to Hashem, then you're not even really doing a mitzvah, although you are. You put on tefillin, no intention, you're still doing something. Spiritually, something's going on. Because she'ein ma'aseh nishlam mibli chefetz hanefesh ba. Because there isn't a complete action with your heart. And this is what we've been talking about all the time. It's called kavanah. What is your kavanah? Your kavanah, your motivation for doing what you're doing, does define the act. Your motivation defines the act. So if there are two brothers and they got an elderly grandmother in hospital, and one of them goes to visit her because he wants lots of money in the will, and he brings her flowers and really talks to her, but he's just there to get money, and the other one is there to make her last few days in the world good and happy. They've done two completely different acts. The act of visiting and giving flowers were different acts. Not only were the different intentions, they were different acts. One was an act of taking, one was an act of giving. So you are completely defined by your motivation, so much so that the Gemara says, and we say, that if you really, 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 really wanted to do a mitzvah, and you were stopped for some reason, it's counted as if you did the mitzvah. Counted as if you did it already. You're walking through the shuk, you see a poor person, you really want to give them tzedakah, you're very excited, put a hand in pocket, and you did have 50 shekels in your pocket, and it obviously dropped out somewhere, and you're like, you did the mitzvah. It's counted. You wanted, but you can't just walk past everyone. I really want to give them money, and never have money, because it means you didn't. Because if you really did, you'd make sure you had money.
Is it the same for an avera?
Hashem's very merciful and a little less so. Hashem is mitzdaref machshava lemaaseh. He connects your thought to a deed. So if you really want to do it, but in Hashem's divine compassion, although there are other sources that say thinking about an avera is even worse than doing it, because it's in private, you can just think about it all day. Right? So in some ways, thinking about it's worse than doing it. At least if you do it, you're going to get it over and done with, get it out of your system. God forbid. So don't think about it, don't do it. But yes, Hashem's definitely, we get more credit for the good things we do than we get discredit for the bad things we do. That's why they say, let's say you die and you have 10 mitzvahs. You have 10 mitzvahs and one avera. And you're going up to heaven and you have in your pot, I've got 10 mitzvahs, one avera. And then before you get there, an angel comes and says, by the way, you can trade off, we'll get rid of your Avera, get rid of your one mitzvah, so then you'll go up with 9 mitzvahs, no Averas. Would you do that? Yeah?
No.
10 mitzvahs, 1 Avera. You got 10 mitzvahs, 1 Avera. You're going up to be judged by the divine, compassionate Lord. Before you get there, an angel comes along and says, by the way, you can trade off. Give me one of the mitzvahs, and I'll take away the Averas. So now you're going to go up, and you're going to have 9 mitzvahs, no Averas.
No, don't do it.
You do that, Trey? You do this?
Let's assume the mitzvah is worth an Avera. Maybe the mitzvah is worth more than an Avera.
What did I just say 1 minute ago? Every mitzvah is worth $1 million.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to go?
Every mitzvah is worth $1 million. 1 Avera is minus $100. You're not swapping a mitzvah for an Avera. You're crazy. You're not what you. Now don't do Averas. I'm just saying Hashem's so compassionate and sweet that He's saying, I'm going to give you extra for the good things. It's, by the way, a good father. When my kids do good things, I do much more praise and things than when they do bad things, I do consequences. If they do a bad thing, I'll say, I'll go to your room, that's not okay. If they do a good thing, I'm like, come, I'll buy you ice cream. I'm really like piling on the praise. And when they do a bad thing, I'm giving them a little tochacha, a little reproof, but not nearly to the extent that I'm praising them when they do a good thing. Hashem's the same. It's all about your kavanah.